When the best players in the world start going out of their way to talk about you, not because they were asked, not because it was a press obligation, but because they genuinely cannot help themselves. That tells you something that statistics alone never fully capture. This is what NBA players actually think about Caitlin Clark. Kevin Garnett, the stamp of approval. Start with Kevin Garnett because KG is not a man who gives compliments carelessly. His entire identity was built on a competitive intensity that left very little room for generosity toward other players. He competed hard, demanded excellence from everyone around him, and reserved his highest praise for the people who had genuinely earned it through music performance. Garnett called Clark one of his two favorite players to watch in the entire NBA. Not the WNBA, the NBA. He placed her in a conversation with the best players' music, in the professional men's game based purely on the quality of what she produces on the floor. The feel for the game, the instinctive decision-making, the specific quality he described as a freestyle intelligence that no scouting process can measure and no coaching music staff can manufacture. What KG kept coming back to was not the shooting range or the record-breaking statistics. Those are real and they matter. But what stops Garnett is the feel. The way Clark moves with an IQ rather than just with athleticism. The hesitation that freezes a defender mid-step. Music, the no-look pass fired across the court to a cutter nobody else in the building has identified yet. The floater that hangs half a second longer than physics seems to allow before dropping through the net. He described it as an old-school vibe, a player who reminds him of a different era, a time when the position was about orchestrating the game rather than dominating possession. For a Hall of Famer who played with and against the greatest guards in NBA history, that comparison carries genuine weight. He has seen what elite basketball intelligence looks like from 20 years of direct professional music experience.
Against every type of defense, defender, the best that the female has. She's seen it. You hear what I'm saying?
Shaquille O'Neal, the greatest female collegiate player ever. Shaquille O'Neal is not a person who typically concerns himself music, with the nuances of NCAA women's basketball. He is a man who played 14 years at an elite professional level, won 4 NBA championships, music, and has spent his post-playing career saying exactly what he thinks whenever he thinks it. When Shaq makes a statement about a player, it comes from a place of genuine reaction rather than considered analysis. When Clark broke the women's scoring record by going for 49 points against Michigan during her senior year, Shaq did not reach for qualifications or hedges. Listen, we all talk about quick release.
Listen, we all talk about a quick release. How quick is her release? How about 0.43 seconds?
In the process, he called out Shaq's proclamation specifically, and his response was to hold a position. He said what he said. Charles Barkley immediately challenged it, bringing out names, clears throat, like Maya Moore, Cheryl Miller, Music, and Diana Taurasi, which is fair and historically accurate. Those players won championships and dominated their eras in ways that Clark, who never won a college title, could not match at that specific music metric. Chuck makes a legitimate counterargument. But what Barkley does not dispute, and what he has been consistently vocal about, is what Clark has meant for women's basketball as a professional. He has been unambiguous in calling out the pettiness of music WNBA veterans who have been resistant to the attention Clark generates. His position has been simple and direct. Music, this player is bringing visibility, money, charter flights, and national attention to your league. The correct response to that is gratitude, not resentment. The league should be thanking her, not making her a target. LeBron James, the perfect head on her shoulders. LeBron James knows from experience what it feels like to arrive in a professional league carrying more hype and expectation than any previous player. He was 17 years old on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He was the chosen one before he had played a single NBA game. The pressure that came with that, the expectation, music management, the media noise, the veterans who wanted to test whether he was worth the attention was something no previous player had ever had to navigate at quite that scale. When LeBron talks about Caitlin Clark, there is an understanding in his words that comes from a very specific music shared experience. He is one of the few people in the history of professional basketball who genuinely knows what she is navigating. The size of the spotlight, the complexity of being the most visible player in your league while still music, being a first or second-year professional, the challenge of focusing on the game while the conversation around the game is primarily music about you. His position on Clark has been consistent. Great talent, great head on her shoulders, the kind of player who is capable of transforming a struggling franchise. He referenced what Tama Catchings had done for Indiana at an earlier point in the Fever's history, drawing a direct line between the transformative impact of individual greatness music and the elevation of an entire franchise around it. LeBron also weighed in on the politics that led to Clark being left off the 2024 Olympic team. The decision that became arguably the most discussed off-court controversy of her rookie year. His position was clear. There is a new wave. Blocking it does not make strategic sense for the growth of the sport. Women's basketball had an opportunity to take that wave to Paris and introduce Clark to a global audience on the largest possible stage. The opportunity was passed, music on. That is a decision that gets harder to defend the more you examine it. Kevin Durant, he saw it first. Of every NBA player who has spoken about Clark's abilities, Kevin Durant may have the most credibility on this specific music subject because he saw her first. Durant was in Chicago at an AAU event when Clark was going into her senior year of high school. She was not yet the national phenomenon she would become. She had not broken any records. She had not appeared on SportsCenter or been the subject of national features. She was a high school player at an amateur tournament. And Durant, one of the most technically sophisticated offensive minds in the history of the game, watched her and immediately registered what he was looking at. His description of what he saw was specific and revealing. Everyone else on the court was moving in slow motion compared to her. She always had the ball in her hands. Everyone else was playing off of her. She commanded the entire game, not by dominating physically, but by controlling the pace and music flow of every possession in a way that most guards with fully developed professional careers never achieve. Durant recognized right then that she was the best player in the country, not the music best female player, the best player. And he said so. Later, when Clark led Iowa to the Final Four and the basketball world was finally paying attention, Durant expanded on what he admired about her game. The way she draws attention and then makes the right play. The way she baits the defense in, creating the impression that she is going to score, music, drawing defensive resources toward her, and then delivering the pass that leaves a teammate with an open shot. He compared it to his own experience playing alongside Steph Curry at Golden State, where Curry's gravity on the floor created advantages for everyone else music, simply by requiring defenses to account for him constantly. Durant knows what it feels like to benefit from sharing a floor with a player so dangerous that defenses cannot ignore them for even a fraction of a second. He recognized that Clark does the same thing for her teammates. That is the highest level of offensive understanding, the ability to make everyone better just by being on the floor. Steph Curry, the comparison that actually holds. The Steph Curry comparison has followed Caitlin Clark since her sophomore season at Iowa. It is the most frequently made music comparison in women's basketball. It has also occasionally been questioned. Is it fair? Is it accurate? Music, is it reductive? Steph Curry himself answered all of those questions by speaking about Clark in specific technical terms that make clear he has watched her carefully and respects what he sees.
Saw the performance. Like I said, 41, almost triple though, yeah. He was shooting, letting that ball fly. I watched a little bit, but then I had to do some treatment.
Curry's observations were not general. He did not say she was good or impressive or fun to watch. He said her release time is nearly identical to his. He said her range and her confidence and her flair for testing that range every night. The willingness to take the logo 3 and believe in it not as a circus trick, but as a legitimate offensive weapon are qualities that he recognizes because they are his own. Music, he said once she crosses half court she is in her range and it is always a threat. He said the balance between her shooting and her playmaking is the thing that makes her impossible to defend. Music, that when you account for the three-point threat, she finds the open man, and when you account for the pass, she shoots the three. That analysis is not a celebrity compliment. That is a detailed tactical breakdown from the greatest shooter in the history of basketball, Music, who has thought carefully about what makes her specifically difficult to guard and articulated it with the precision of someone who understands the problem from the inside. The Curry comparison was always going to be made. The fact that Curry himself affirmed it in specific technical respectful terms is the clearest possible evidence that it is not flattery. It is an accurate music description of a player who operates from a similar philosophical framework about what the game should look like and how to change it. Luka Doncic, she shoots better than me. Luka Doncic is a lot of things. Music, he is one of the best scorers in the modern NBA. He is a triple-double threat every night. He is a high-volume shooter who has hit some of the most difficult shots Music in recent playoff history. He is not, by his own admission, as good a shooter as Caitlin Clark. Donik watched Clark in a game, and when asked about her shooting, he said she could shoot it better than him. He let that statement stand without qualification. There was no hedge about the level of competition, or the physical differences, or any of the other caveats that might have allowed him to soften the comparison. She can shoot it better than him. Period. Music, from a player of Donit's caliber, that is a remarkable statement. He acknowledged that his shooting, which has made him one of the most dangerous offensive players on the planet, is not at the level of what Clark does from the perimeter. Music, the statistical similarities between Clark's college numbers and Donika's NBA averages had already been noted extensively by analysts. The fact that Donik himself weighed in with genuine admiration for her shooting ability puts the comparison in a music-different register entirely. Trae Young, the unguardable breakdown. Trae Young understands something that most analysts miss when they talk about Caitlin Clark. Everyone talks about the shooting. Not enough people talk about the driving this last year, and
this last year, and the Fever as a whole, to see Kelsey get some playoff experience, and just the whole group, Aaliyah, the whole group. So just really cool to follow the team.
Young broke down the specific tactical mechanism that makes Clark impossible to guard, and his analysis came from personal experience because he operates from an almost identical offensive framework. He pointed out that Clark begins games by attacking the basket. She drives, she gets layups, she gets easy music ones, she draws fouls, and the defenders guarding her are watching this happen music, and making adjustments, pulling their coverage tighter to stop the drive, sagging less to take away the path to the rim. And that is exactly when the three-pointer becomes unstoppable. Because now the defender who tightened their coverage to stop the drive has overcommit. They are too close. Clark stops, steps back, and hits the three over a defender who has no time to recover. Young described watching her use hang dribbles to read whether the defender would allow her to drive again before stepping back into the jumper. She had a plan from the opening possession. She was setting up the defense for what she was going to do in the fourth quarter, in the first quarter. That level of premeditated, music, offensive architecture is what Young recognized. Not the athleticism. Not the range. The basketball intelligence that determines when to drive and when to shoot, how to use one to set up the other, music, and how to build a complete offensive game that has no single answer because defending any part of it opens up another part. Young knows what it feels like to operate that way because he does it himself. And he saw it in Clark. Tyrese Haliburton, home turf. Tyrese Haliburton, the face of the Indiana Pacers, was asked about Clark coming to Indianapolis, and his response said something that a lot of observers had already understood, but not articulated cleanly.
Caitlin is the most popular WNBA player, but she's not the best at this time. Just like Larry and I were not the best when we entered the league. We became the best later on by our play.
Caitlin is the most popular WNBA player, but she's not the best at this time. Just like Larry and I were not the best when we entered the league, we became the best later on by our play. He was excited. Not performatively excited, music, genuinely excited because Clark was coming to a basketball city that takes his basketball seriously. A franchise that had fallen from its heights and needed a reason for people to believe in it again. And she was bringing with her the kind of star power music that changes everything about what a city expects from its team. Haliburton mentioned being under the same roof as Clark, the Pacers, and the Fever